If you're a fan of 80s hard rock, then surely Def Leppard are going to be one of those bands that are always on your radar. But what are their best albums? They're still releasing albums now in 2022. Let's go through the top ranking albums of Def Leppard. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. Today we're going to be doing a album ranking for the Sheffield-based, well, I don't know if they're Sheffield-based anymore, but they originated in Sheffield, UK hard rock band Def Leppard. Now, Def Leppard are an English rock band. They formed in 1977 in Sheffield, and since sort of 92, the band consisted of Joe Elliott as lead singer, Rick Savage on bass, Rick Allen on drums, Phil Collen on guitars, and Vivian Campbell also on guitars. All the players also do a lot of background vocals as well. They were established really and became part of the new wave of heavy metal in the early 80s, a title they wanted to sort of get away from, and to some extent they did. So today we're going to be going through all their albums. I'm going to include all their sort of studio albums and not include their covers album, Yeah, and also their sort of compilation albums of B-sides, which is called Retroactive. So let's kick off with the albums of Def Leppard ranked from worst to best. In 11th position is the album X, or 10, even though it was their 8th album. So I'm not quite sure where that comes from. It was, I think it did come out right on the 2000, but again, I don't know why it was called X. This is an album which is really full of sort of pop rock tunes. It's pop rock, but they kind of forgot the rock. And this is, to me, is definitely their worst album. Nothing really stands out. It's a little bland. It's very poppy. So in 11th position is X. In 10th position is Songs from the Sparkle Lounge. It does rock, certainly more so than X does. It just doesn't have the hooks, you know. The opener, Go, is a good song, but the rest is just really a bit unremarkable. And for a band like Def Leppard, it doesn't really sort of put itself up against their other albums. So I'm putting Songs from the Sparkle Lounge in 10th position. In 9th position is the album Slang. Now, this came out really at the height of sort of grunge alternative music. It was a real departure in sound for the band. There's a lot more sort of industrial sort of sounds, and I think they were just trying a little bit too hard to fit into this sort of grunge music era. However, there's some good songs. I mean, the opener, Truth, is pretty good. The Middle Eastern sort of sounded Turn to Dusk, and the funky sort of title track, Slang itself, are all good. Even their ballad, you know, All I Want Is Everything, is a lot less cheesy than some of their ballads. It's a bit of a Marmite album for me, really, Slang. You either love it or hate it. For me, I'm somewhere in between, you know. I'm glad they did something different, but you know, and it probably holds up better now than it did at the time. But I still think it's only good enough to be in number 9. In 8th position is their debut, On Through the Night. This has got lots of raw energy. It's a bit more punky. It's very new wave of British heavy metal, really. It's got much more in that sort of Thin Lizzy, almost Bon Scott era AC/DC than certainly any of their more slicker albums. I mean, Hello America, you know, it shows how they're sort of going to develop their sound with all the harmony vocals and everything else in there. But I'm putting On Through the Night in 8th position. In 7th position is Adrenalize. Now, this is the first album without Steve Clark. It was recorded as a sort of 4-piece. It's sort of poppy and catchy. I mean, songs like Let's Get Rocked are quite fun. A good sort of anthem. Heaven is a good song. Tonight and Make Love Like a Man are all good songs. They're all sort of catchy rockers, but they just don't seem to be as catchy as, you know, their album, certainly the album before Hysteria. White Lightning is a great little mini epic. I do like it when they go and do these sort of little mini epics. It's a sort of dedicated to the memory of Steve Clark here. And although not as successful as Hysteria, it still managed to sell 7 million copies. So 7 million copies, and number 7 for Adrenalize. In 6th position is their latest album. You may have seen the review that I did for Diamond Star Heroes. It's quintessentially Diamond Star Halos. I want to say Diamond Star Heroes. Diamond Star Halos. It's a quintessentially Def Leppard album. It's got lots of rock anthems, but it has got a few too many soppy ballads, some sort of country style ballads, and I think they should have trimmed it a bit. There's a bit of filler in there as well. My favourite though is the last track, the sort of mini epic From Here to Eternity. Really good song. It's not a bad album, but it can only make number 6 in my ranking. In 5th position is Euphoria. Now, Mutt Lange sort of came back to this album, not as a sort of full-time producer, but more of a sort of consultant, really. And he co-wrote 3 of the songs, Promises, All Night, and It's Only Love. But overall, some really good tracks. You've got the opener, Demolition Man, with a guitar solo by Formula One driver Damon Hill. It's a good song, real hard rocker. Promises sound probably as close as a Hysteria song as you can get. But for me, 21st Century Sha-La-La Girl is a really good song, and it's different enough. And also, probably one of my favourite songs from Def Leppard, even throughout all their albums, is a song called Paper Sun. I really love this song. It's a really good song. Has soaring guitars, great melody, and it's just a great track. A lot of the rest of the album is a little throwaway, like the ballad Goodbye and the sort of funky, almost Prince sounding All Night. Just sound a little bit conceited, but still not a bad album. So I'm putting Euphoria in 5th position. In 4th position is their self-titled album that came out in 2015. It's a great album, this. Opener, Let's Go, sounds very much like Pour Some Sugar on Me. It's very slick, but it's still quite a heavy sort of hitting album. It's very trademark sort of Def Leppard, but not an overall copy of their albums that went before. But it's probably the closest to those sort of big 80s albums. Dangerous is another great song. Man Enough is different enough, although it does sound a little bit like Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. Sea of Love, All Time High are also great tracks. I think the self-titled album, Def Leppard 2015, is good enough to hit my number 4 position. In 3rd position, and we're heading into the top 3 really quickly here, is an album that I reckon a lot of Def Leppard fans would put in first, but I think it's only good enough for me for be the 3rd best Def Leppard album, and that's Hysteria. 20 million copies of this album were sold, 7 hit singles. I mean, that speaks for yourself how popular this album was. But me, it's just a little bit too slick. It's like overproduced. It took a long while to make and a long while to come out after going through various different producers and everything else. And I think, when it comes to rock and roll, you want a little bit of rawness. You want something a bit edgy. But for me, this sounds like it was like made on a computer, really. I mean, you can't dismiss there's some great songs. I mean, whether you've got Woman, Rocket, Love Bites, Pour Some Sugar on Me, the title track Hysteria, they're all great songs. Just think it would have been a little bit better if it wasn't as slickly produced. So I can only put Hysteria in 3rd position. In 2nd position, which is probably another album that someone probably put at their top, is Pyromania. It's less slick than Hysteria, but it's got the hooks, it's got the songs, it's got lots of standout tracks. Photograph is a brilliant song, Fooling is a great song, Rock of Ages, Stage Fright, Too Late for Love. I mean, they're all really good songs. This is the first album with Phil Collen on guitar, and you can definitely hear that the quality of solos is a step above the albums that came before. But for me, Pyromania is almost their best, but not quite. So 2nd place goes to Pyromania. And in 1st position, which you probably, if you're a Def Leppard fan, can work out now, is High and Dry. I mean, High and Dry for me is all killer and no filler, and that's what usually makes my number 1 on all these sort of album rankings that I do. Got great songs. I love Lady Strange, Mirror Mirror, Let It Go, Another Hit and Run. They're really, really good songs. And for me, I love that raw energy. It had that rawness, but with a little bit more slickness on it. I think this was the first album with Mutt Lange producing, and it definitely is a big step up from their debut album. The songs, though, are really good. I do like, Pete Willis, who's the guitarist there. He does solos. Steve Clark does solos. I do like that sort of immediacy, the rawness of those solos. It's a real good hard rocking album. And I remember this album has good memories for me because back in when I was a teenager, I had this tape that was given to me by someone. He said, "Oh, you like this? This is hard rock. This is your sort of stuff." Didn't know what it was. Didn't have any names on it, and I listened to it, and I really liked it, but I didn't even know who it was. I thought it sounded like AC/DC, but I didn't think it was AC/DC, and I wasn't sure. But then I realised it was Def Leppard, and for me, this album just really does it for me. It's a great album to listen to in the summer. It's a good hard rocking album without all that slick overproduction. I really love it, and I think it should be the best album, High and Dry. So there's my ranking already. We're only 8.5 minutes into this, and we're already at the end of it. High and Dry. What do you guys reckon? Is High and Dry the best album? Would you put Hysteria or Pyromania higher as in the top position? Maybe you like some of the newer stuff. Maybe the new album even. Well, you'd be a bit strange if you're putting that in number one. They're a great band. They've sold lots of albums. They're still going. I've heard they're not as great live as they used to be. But, you know, these guys, you've got to give them respect for still putting out the songs, still putting out albums, still touring. I mean, they are a legacy, really, when it comes to British hard rock. And, you know, nobody can dispute the fact that they've sold absolutely gazillions of albums. So, there's my ranking for Def Leppard. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you can give me your ranking of the albums, then I'm really interested to see what you think. Let me know. Is High and Dry their best album? Let me know in the comments. And until the next one, well, you know what you've got to do. Keep on rocking.